thoughts from the shower. So the power of daydreaming. If you drift off out of being in the moment, it's not the drifting off that's bad in most cases. The drifting off happens for a reason. Because wherever you are living in frequency at that moment is either fully engaging to you, to the point where if you drift off and forget, right, you don't forget ever having the conversation. You don't forget necessarily what was said in the conversation or what was learned in the class, or what. And when I say in the class, it's like, in the class could be a conversation. In the class could be a song. In the class could be in a class. It's a way to internalize what's happening, right? So when I'm working with clients, I am channeling from a frequency outside of my physical space. And because that's happening, because I am not actively placing myself as the full seer of what someone is feeling in my presence or what someone is saying in my presence, I'm able to, in those spaces, channel. And in channeling, which we all have the ability to channel, it's something that comes from a place of pure connection, of pure love, of pure faith, not only in, like, we say faith and we think of something outside of ourselves, but understanding that we are a part of the something outside of ourselves. So having faith that the moment that we're in is showing us something. So it's the paying attention to what the something is. And then the healing, self-healing, self-movement, self-learning, self-actualization comes in when you are in a space, no matter the space, school classroom, life classroom, common engagement, uncommon engagement. What are you feeling? What did the words or action being said or done make you feel? Processing what that is, being honest with yourself. I feel angry. I feel belittled. I feel empowered. I feel bashful but happy. I feel withdrawn in this moment. I feel deeply in love. I feel open. I feel meditative, right? So if you're in a class that you engage in, that you are fully there in, it just flows. The information just flows into your brain, or at least for me, it just flows into your brain, and it feels very aligned. And this is with a song, this is with conversations with people, this is with activities. There are those spaces where you don't necessarily remember what you did every step of the way, because it was meditative for you. You were fully in frequency, body and spirit. Like you go out dancing. If you like to dance, you go out dancing. You don't know every step you made on the floor that evening, unless you don't really love to dance, or you're really anxious about dancing, and then you remember every single thing that you did because you weren't in a meditative space with the dancing. You were in a very anxious human space. Which anxiety is just another emotion that allows you to notice change. However, anxiety causes people to run. I don't know why I'm channeling this right now. So I was watching Chicken Run 2, I don't know what the name of it is, with my son. Netflix movie. Well, I don't know what kind of movie, who produced it. I wasn't really paying attention. I was just trying to find a night movie that we could both watch. And I remember watching Chicken Run when I was a kid, and I haven't watched it again because it was kind of traumatizing to me. And, but at the same time, I was a kid, and, kids are thrown aback by a lot of things. But I saw it come up, I turned it on. When it got to a part that made me feel weird, I asked my son how he felt. Because we're watching the movie together, we're at home, we are in the comfort of our own space, and this is a time when we're connecting on something that's new for him, it's new for me. I do have a tie-in to it, unlike his Minecraft videos that I'm completely untied to, so it's very hard for me to be in it with him. And he's just learning it himself, so he gets frustrated when I ask questions, which is fine, because that lets me know that it's not something that we can really be in together unless I also want to be in a learning space about that thing. And I don't, I want to know the basic things about it every once in a while. And we'll have maybe a 3 to 5 minute conversation about it, which I think is pretty long. Turn on 3 to 5 minutes and see what happens. It's a long time. Especially when you're trying to pay attention to what's going on in your world. You're not in a space of teaching, right? And that's okay, because we all should be able to go back and forth between being learners and being teachers. But we have to allow ourselves to be both. To know when to step away. And when you're learning, even if you're learning the exact same thing, there are people who are on all different levels of the information coming into it. So in this regard of the Minecraft thing, Rahai is the expert. That's my son. He's 6. I'm not the expert, and I accept that place wholeheartedly. And I come to the teacher and ask him questions every once in a while when I'm walking past and I have 2 pieces of information that I've heard and him watching it on YouTube in my time of being somewhere within audible proximity. Sometimes, because sometimes I just completely go off and do my own thing. A lot of times I do. So I'm picking it up very slowly, but I am picking it up when I'm picking it up. I've talked to a couple other parents. They're like, no, Minecraft's fine, blah, blah, blah. It deals with coding, it deals with this, that. Okay, he's going to be learning. There's so many things out there that are so blobby, just like, I We can't spend too much time there. That's okay. It's cool. And I'm going to give you space to do that, right? But when it starts to take over the thought processes and he's just walking around balking all the time because that's all he's been immersed in, it's time to turn it off. But that doesn't happen very often because people vary life. But it's one of those things that, going back to Minecraft, that I pay attention to sparingly because it is something that he is interested in, and I do want to be interested in the things that he is interested in. However, he's still learning it as well. So he can only be but so much of a teacher to me about this thing. And I know you might be thinking, well, he's 6. Yes, he is. However, there are some things he's been interested in since he was 2. Some things he's been interested in since he was 3. So he's had 3 years of being interested in it and gaining more information, like dinosaurs and ecosystems and bugs and insects. There is a difference. I know I learned that in elementary school, but it completely left my brain. Not important to me, very important to him. And he retaught me that information. And when I was a kid, I was much like him. I would sit down and watch David Attenborough stuff because I really liked David Attenborough and his voice was calming and I was learning things. And then I went off into other trails. However, he's very much into it. So right now, he is my teacher in that again. And I'm allowing him to do that when it's appropriate because it gives him confidence. It helps him build his confidence. And I am learning something. Like even when we have our little 3-minute conversations about Minecraft, I am learning something about something that I have no idea what it is. Well, I do. I have a very elementary level idea of what it is. And right now in elementary school, Rahai and I for Minecraft are both mentally in elementary school. It's just that he's in like the 1st grade and I'm in pre-K. So we had little 5-minute conversations about it. But, you know, allowing yourself to know when your mental capacity, going back to the original thing of the video, I believe, of like paying attention to your daydreaming. It's when you tap out. When do you tap out of things? And the time frame in which you tap out of something to go into a either complaining space, a dissociation space of just being in la-la, maybe thinking about your dreams instead of whatever's going on right there. And thinking about your dreams in the sense that you're unable to bring them back into the conversation. And when you come back into the conversation and get clarity, it doesn't even make sense. Like you missed that much going off into your own world. That means that you probably aren't interested in that right now, or it is something that you're dissociating away from, something that they brought up, and now you're unable to get the information, which is not that person's fault. What it means is that they may be in varying levels of years, time, thought, research, internally, externally written and lived research in that thing. So whatever the thought is, feeling is, that they are bringing up in you, that took you off into a place that took you completely out of the now of then. right? Like you're not thinking back on it where you feel like you were dually engaged, like listening to music and driving. That's a dual engagement. If you're listening to music and driving and singing, you've now added 3 levels of engagement. So those are 3 different things that you are skilled at. There are people who drive in silence because when they turn the music on or talking on, they can't continue to focus on driving. And they may not think that's why it is, but they turn something else on and now they're scattered. If you're scattered having that on, then driving, it's not the music, it's not the audible need for you while doing that task. And that's why it's very important. Sorry, I said these were thoughts in the shower. That is why it's really important to pay attention to not just your sleeping dreams, because some people don't even have sleeping dreams, but also your waking dreams. Are they taking you places outside of the place that you're in? And if so, does it feel good or does it not feel good? If it doesn't feel good, is it because they're trying to make you not feel good? Or is it because there's something to deal with in the topic of conversation that didn't make you feel good? Something to unpack, something to look deeper into, something to heal. Something to maybe become vulnerable with that person in that space if you know that person is a loving entity for you. There are ways to drift off and be aware, and it's best to drift off on purpose in reflection, not complaining. Like, are you just reflecting on something to see why you felt a certain way? Or are you fully into thinking about how the entity that made you feel that way made you feel that way? Because if that's the case, you're still giving all of your mental power to the entity. Whoever the entity is, whatever the entity is. So, in facing the entity, you haven't yet adopted your place in the equation as a power holding space of, okay, I see what has happened. I know about what can happen. I know what has happened. And because of that, I am feeling ... And give yourself time to figure out those answers, right? And if the trigger, whether it's a person, outside source or entity, you experiencing something, like you having an experience with other humans, or you having an experience with an inanimate object, you having an experience with life happening around you, life happening with you in it. All of those questions are questions of self-reflection, and then thinking about, well, whose voice answered that? If it was your voice or if it was someone else's voice, it doesn't necessarily matter if it was a voice. Because many times flow is a feeling. Flow is a feeling. So like my yoga classes, and many people call their yoga classes this. I don't know why I've, never really asked, I don't think. Except for one person. But My reason for calling my classes Soul Flow is because in the moment, I allow the teaching space to be meditative so that I'm able to almost, like they say, astral projection in your sleep, almost do that in a very aware space. Allowing myself to project out into the room as a teacher, but knowing that my students are my teachers on what I need to teach. So I am projecting my energy out into the room to feel what is happening around me. And I may not be able to put it in words like this, but that's not the teaching space I'm trying to be in at the moment. I'm trying to be in a teaching space of showing up for the soul's flow. Our soul is both an encasement of our body and the encasement within our bodies. Like our soul lives in us as a spark, but we also live in the light of the soul. Like it's not confined to our bodily space. The less we are in a meditative, reflective space of the world around us, the more we confine our soul's light to our bodies. And sometimes, and I'm speaking of this as a recipient of this type of bodily behavior, sometimes when we are shrinking our spirits, our bodies, like if we're pulling our light in because we're being triggered and not wanting to see it, feel it, we're being triggered and not able to see it, feel it, therefore deal with it, that energy still has somewhere that it needs to go, and it can have sort of a ballooning effect. If you have energy that needs to be dispelled and you're not allowing that to happen, it's getting locked into the confines, right? You're sealing up all the holes of your vessel. And it's okay to have holes, because holes not only allow things to get in, but they allow things to get out. So the more enmeshed in life you become, the more finer mesh your soul and body interweave to become. So the body's not fully holding the soul, and the soul isn't like shrinking up against the body. So shrinking up against the body, again, being someone who has experienced it, I'm speaking on it. I'm not saying I'm the be all end all, but take what resonates and leave the rest. Or consider it if it triggers you. It's the whole conversation. So when you are overpouring, it's nice to lose weight, but we all know sort of what, like it's a feeling. I look good in my body is a feeling. It's not a look, because everybody looks differently. Not talking about weight at all. Everybody looks different. Varying body shapes, even the same size of clothing can look an immense infinite amount of ways on all the different bodies, right? Even though the numbers may be the same, it doesn't really mean anything. So, when you look at yourself, you're looking at your vessel. Your vessel is not a solid thing. Our bodies, though they look solid under the density of gravity, our bodies, with the pressure of gravity, are an enmeshment of cells. So there is an ability for them to be stretched, right? We go to yoga and we stretch. However, there's a difference between an internal opening of the spirit, internal intentional opening of the spirit, allowing yourself to open, allowing yourself to blossom and bloom, allowing yourself to have vulnerability. Because moving through a yoga class, while many postures, big dynamically seen postures, can be done, all things are reflective. And therefore, just like there's not every single person on the world is not a millionaire, that resource is finite. However, there's an infinite amount of things that your body can do all together. There may be, constricting one area, loosening the other, then reversing it. And then there's varying degrees. There are some places that are going to completely stop, because it's a joint. It only goes in certain directions. But then there are other places that will move, like the muscles. That's why the muscles are there. They're there to be opened for movement, for growth. So if we are allowing that, it feels vulnerable. If it's a place of previous injury or harm, be it in the mind or in the be it like physical harm, with or from the current perpetrator, or just energetically mirroring something from a previous happening in your current spatial engagement. It's to be reflected on, right? It's to be reflected on, and how long that reflection takes is really up to what you're dealing with, how far back it goes, and how much you are in alignment to unpack at that time. And your alignment is really, in a way, some of it's default, some of it is you being on a frequency to hear a particular resonance. Like, people can't hear dog whistles, but dogs can, because they're on a particular resonance for that sound. Certain music sounds good to certain people, and then certain music don't sound good to certain people. And it doesn't really matter, again, what the people look like externally. That's just an avatar. That's just a part of your game of life. But the resonance of how it makes you feel is something to be reflected on. And you may never come around to liking the thing, but there is power in knowing why you do not. Because it'll save you a lot of trouble otherwise. if you're able to be reflective on the things that come across your daily sphere, your momentarily lived sphere, then you're able to sort of know more about where you in particular stand in the world, both externally and internally. We don't have power over what happens externally many times, unfortunately. Sometimes we do, but that's more about our personal internal processing, being able to be cognized to the point of execution, aka you paid attention. You paid attention, and then you figured out why it made you feel a certain way, or you figured out, the history of the thing or whatever. But once you figure those out, then it's more decisions on, well, do I like how I felt? And that's a more of a yes or no, because it's more about honesty, right? It is a yes or no. It's yes, I did, but, or yes, or not but, yes, I did, and it made me a little uncomfortable that I felt good with that. Why is that? Because I felt good. And then you figure out why you didn't feel good. And then it allows you to either communicate that to someone else, or it allows you to unpack it with someone else, which may not be the same someone else as who triggered it. And that's fine. But if the person who triggered it is still available in your life and you want that to continue, then you communicate what you've been working on. And even if it's just a little bit, right? You're still learning in it. You're still learning in it, and that's okay to still be learning in it. But whatever you are with and doing, if you plan to continue to do it, then, or continue to be in it, then you will share. And it's okay to say, I don't have anything going on right now. I'm content. I'm accepting contentment at the moment. I'm aware that there may be other things that need to be done, but in the moment I feel good accepting contentment. That is allowing yourself space for rest, space for reflection, space for relaxation, space for integration of reaching a dream. It doesn't matter what the dream is. And you can still have other dreams and other pots simmering that you open up and you stir. But stirring doesn't mean you're serving it. Stirring doesn't mean that, sometimes you need to turn the burner down. And that's how it is in life. You have a rolling pot that just somebody turned the burner up because the burner was on fully low and it was still frozen. You said you wanted to cook it. That's why it was on the stove. So they turned it on at whatever degree to help you. I watched this video of I guess it's a TikTok I don't have TikTok, but I watch TikToks on Instagram because I'm a millennial. Judge somebody else. So I saw it, and it was like how nice it is to have, like, there was a kitchen staff, and it's talking about how nice it is to have other people in the kitchen just do things when they see you coming. Like, they see you, they see a need you have, and they fill it. So they open a door, or they turn on the sink when you're coming with the pot. They move something out the way when they see you're headed their direction. Those are the behaviors of someone in a meditative space with something. And the space, not only are they in a meditative space with it, but the things around them are a part of that meditative space, to the point where when you enter with your pot, they know where you're going because they've done what you've done. So this was like, I guess it was a sous chef and a head chef. They've done what you've done, so they know where you've been. They know where you're going. If they're head chef, it's their kitchen. They know where you're about to step. Right? So if you're in a conversation with someone and they're listening to you, blah, blah, blah. If there's someone in a healer frequency in your interaction with them, and then some people, which are most people, have an ability to be in a healer frequency at all times, but you only have the ability to be in a healer frequency with something that you have accepted the challenge of healing within yourself. Whether you were on the privileged side of it or the unprivileged side of it, the privileged side came with things you had to give up. You sacrificed something, or those around you sacrificed something to get you what you had. Whether it was their identity, whether it was money, whether it was belief in self, whether it was comfort, whether it was music, whether it was whatever it was. Something was sacrificed in order for you to receive the best of whatever was possible, even many times in how do I want to say this? In spaces of commune, so family, community groups that everyone is aware of each other, knows each other. For a point, to a point, one person is providing some sort of light, right? But our vessels are still yet to be fully understood by science. And there's the space of misunderstanding or non-understanding that leaves room for more discovery. So, like, there are things that are handed down genetically that we don't even understand. I believe there are energetic genetics where we receive things from ancestors and predecessors that are passed down and passed down and passed down, physically or energetically. And the energetic genetics are either going to push you forward or is going to be a wall, structure, a tower that needs to come down. Sorry, I'm now driving. Sounds have changed. So, I'm saying all of this to say, because now that I'm in the car, I feel like the channeling is coming to an end. About this particular topic. So, at the moment, feel free to ask questions, make comments. I will appreciate all that is done, because even the haters are baiters to your upgrade. Okay, even the haters are baiters to your upgrade. You're a fish and they're like, ooh, look at me, I'm shiny, I'm shiny, I'm shiny, I'm shiny. And then you go over there, and if you're really paying attention, confirmation through sounds around. If you're really paying attention, you'll realize that the worm is fake. You'll realize that you're about to be sucked up. You'll realize that you're about to be caught in someone else's net that is not for your highest good. So, pay attention to your daydreams. Pay attention to when you drift off. Pay attention to why you drifted off. Pay attention to the feelings that came up when you drifted off, whether they make you feel good or not. Whoever is like, if she don't put her seatbelt on, listen, I'm normally doing the right thing, but I'm on a back road driving 15 miles an hour. So, I'm going to put it on when I cross this next light, though, because I'm paying attention. And therefore, I know when I cross this light, there's way more traffic than what I'm receiving right now, and I need to protect myself better. All right, y'all. Create a great day. This has been Chrii channeling, and I'm out.